carry on with the introduction of the Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon to his Sidur. Okay, in line number 100, in page number 2, Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon 2. Line number 100. Patach Mechabro, remember this is a translation from Arabic. Patach Mechabro, line number 100. Okay, everybody got it? Yeah, 100. Patach Mechabro. 99, sorry. V'ama yitbarach v'yishtabach Hashem Elokim Elokei Yisrael lemala mikol tiyur. Now, Mikivan, since shenusach tfilot b'nei Yisrael, because the nusach of tfilot b'nei Yisrael u'birkotehem Hashem yitbarach, eino katuv b'mikra. It's not written in the Torah. That means nothing is mentioned of how you daven in the Torah. כמו שרבים מדיני המשפטים והמצוות לא נתבהרו בו, אלא, like many other mitzvahs, אלא הצריכנו לגביהם המצווה למסורה מפי נביאיו. We need to know the Masorah, the tradition. That means it's not Torah שבכתב, it's Torah שבעל פה. ביחד עם זה, המקום שבמקרא שהוא תפילה לפי משמעו, אינו יכול לשמש לנו תפילה. And wherever it's written in the Torah, language of tefillah, now the next word is a mistake. It's supposed to be mipnei. Samach tet nun. I don't know what happened here with the printing. It's supposed to be the word mipnei. Eino yachol leshamesh lanu tefillah, mipnei shu mu'urav, im tzivui v'askara v'aftacha v'iyum b'chol perek u'perek. Anytime a tefillah is mentioned in the Torah, it's always connected with either mitzvot, promises, threats of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, etc., etc. Ein הסברה נותנת שייכנס דבר מן הדברים האלה בתפילה. You can't put this in the framework of our תפילה, כמו שפירשנו בספר הראיה לתפילה. As we already explained. That means Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon says, listen, if we're going to look in the Torah for sources of tefillah and language of Torah, a language of tefillah, we often can't use it. Why not? Let's give ourselves examples. Okay? When does Moshe Rabbeinu daven? Moshe Rabbeinu davens for his sister, Kel Narafan Allah. But that's because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what did he say? He's going to put her away for leprosy, for saying Lashon Hara. That means it's a reaction. Moshe Rabbeinu davens to HaKadosh Baruch Hu after the Egel HaZahav as a reaction. It's always a reaction. Let's give us after something has happened. Exactly. Let's give ourselves another example. Okay, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Avraham Avinu speaks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu after he knows that Sodom and Amorah are going to be destroyed. And what does he do? He asks HaKadosh Baruch Hu perhaps there are a few tzaddikim, etc., etc. It's a reaction. The tefillah is not a reaction. It is not a creation, but a reaction. And says Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon, because of this, we can't often use the framework of what? Of the tefillah, which are mentioned in the Torah. Let's give ourselves one more example. When Moshe Rabbeinu davens to go into Eretz Yisrael, it's a reaction because he knows he's not going to go into Eretz Yisrael. And therefore he davens to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, perhaps you'll let me in. Therefore it's a reaction. And our tefillah not always should be a reaction. When the Torah comes and tells us daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's not a reaction, but it's what?
Proactive.
It's proactive. Very good. It's proactive. And
how you know from the words of Saadya Gaon it's a reaction?
Because he says in line number 103, ויחד עם זה, המקום שבמקרא שהוא תפילה משמעו, אינו יכול לשמש לנו תפילה. It can't be sources of tefillah, mipnei. There's a mistake. Samach tet nun yud is a mistake, mipnei. Shu murav im tzivui. It's mixed up with sometimes a commandment, a warning, a promise, a threat. That means it's always a reaction. Ein hasvara notenet, and therefore you can't put in the framework of tefillah things which are written in the Torah. Klomar, ובשלהם klomar בתפילה וברכה, סמכו על מה שקיבלו האנשים במשורה מנביאי השם. Therefore the whole concept of tefillah is based on tradition from the Nevi'im. Oh, Nevi'im already is not a reaction.
So Yitzchak and Rivka, when they're praying for children, is that a reaction? Or
What would you say?
I say it's proaction.
What do you mean? She's been waiting for kids for goodness knows how long.
How long?
We don't. Too long.
How old is she?
Pardon? It doesn't make any difference how old she is because you're already basing it on Midrashei Chazal. You take it. Pardon? According to the way the Torah, Yitzchak Avinu was 37. Okay, 40 when he, what's it called? Okay, Shishim Shana. They're already at least 10 years. Let's say you don't accept what Chazal say, that she was 3 years old when he married, but definitely she was older, okay? He was 40 when he married her. And he only had, the Torah comes and says, Shishim Shana beledet otam. It was 20 years they waited. So therefore, it's a reaction. That's the pshat of the psukim. If you look at the beginning of Parshat Toldot, what is the introduction of Parshat Toldot? Let's read it inside, just to prove it. Okay? Vayi Yitzchak ben 40 shana. Okay? And it's written, Vayi Yitzchak 40 shana bekachto et Rivka bat Betuel. He was 40 years old. And when does he give birth? Yitzchak ben 60 shana beledet otam. 20 years. Okay? It's a long time. So therefore the davening is after they see that she's not falling pregnant.
But surely it's not a reaction, or every tefillah is probably a reaction.
No, the Torah doesn't want it.
Reacting to the fact she hasn't had kids. When I ask for something for a Kadosh Baruch Hu, it's because I have a need. I have a need is reacting to the need.
No, 1 minute. When you say Atochonein le'odom das, do you actually think to yourself that I missed something yesterday and I didn't understand it, and that's why I say Atochonein le'odom das?
Maybe not that one.
Right, 1 minute. Let's give ourselves another one, okay? Rafa'inu can often be a reaction.
Rafa'inu is reacting because you're reacting to someone
who's sick. Right, okay, but let's say, Slach lo novi.
Keep us healthy.
Pardon?
Keep us healthy.
Oh, 1 minute. We'll get to that in a minute. We'll go to this stage because it's something very interesting here. 1 minute. It's something very interesting. Okay? But the framework of tefillah is not, you take Tehillim of David HaMelech, it's not always a reaction. He's proactive, he's davening, the David Hashem Orivi Ishi, etc., etc. Okay? Anyway. Now, this is very interesting. Line number 105. Okay? ובשתיהם כלומר בתפילה וברכות סמכו על מה שקיבלו אנשים במשורה מנביאי השם. והיו להם שני סדרים. They had two different frameworks of tefillah. אחד לזמן המלוכה ואחד לזמן הגלות. Two different frameworks of tefillah. The first one is, what did they used to daven in the period when David HaMelech was king? Shlomo HaMelech was king.
Before we have to pay the Mikdash.
Pardon? After the Beis HaMikdash.
That was mostly korbanot.
So, but they davened. Okay, Shlomo HaMelech davens. So therefore, when Chazal used to do, you take the second Beis HaMikdash also, and we know that Ezra Sofer was the beginning of the second Beis HaMikdash. They had Beis HaMikdash there.
Wasn't it until the Sanhedrin started composing?
No, Ezra Sofer, we learned it. Ezra Sofer started Tefillot. If you learn the first revolution,
nothing during the first Beis HaMikdash.
Wherever the first Beis HaMikdash was, we got no language of Tefillah besides Tehillim and some of the Nevi'im. Okay? But he says, for instance, what was the Tefillah of Yerushalayim Erchov Barachamim Toshu?
You had to have
This is now, that's one of the problems of nowadays, for instance. Okay? Or in the time of Shlomo HaMelech, for instance, where there was complete kibbutz galuyot, what was the tefillah? The answer is, in one of the writings of Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon, he says the tefillah was there, that we asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu to keep it for us. Not that he should build it, but to keep it.
Or expand it.
Or expand it. But not really begging. תקע בשופר גדול לחירותנו, ושנש לקבץ גלויותינו. Now, in our generation, or in the generation of Shlomo HaMelech, what did they used to daven for? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu should keep us in Eretz Yisrael. So that's why he says there are two different frameworks of tefillah. The framework of tefillah in the time when the Jewish people had Eretz Yisrael, and the time where echad lizman hagalut. So he says, he admits, Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon, this is a huge chidush. The chidush is two different frameworks of tefillah. The time where Am Yisrael are in Eretz Yisrael, and the periods of galut. Lachen, what is he say? Line number 106. Nachutz le'esof et התפילות והברachot שהם מסדר זמננו זה. We have to look for tefillot which apply in our generation. רוצה לומר, תקופת הגלות, the period of גולוס, ולראשמן, ובפרט משום מה שקורה בזמן הזה, משלושה דברים, ההזנחה, ההוספה, ההשמטה. Now guys, this is something truly amazing. He says, people have been leaving the world of tefillah. That means his siddur is a reaction.
What time frame are we talking?
The year 800. The impact of the karaim, the karats. Okay? In inverted commas, translate it to the period of the reform, different world of tefillah. People are leaving the world of tefillah. People are changing the nusach of tefillah. Okay? Changing the words, changing the tochen, changing the...
Afterwards, I'll tell you the story.
Okay, you could tell a story in a minute.
Why did they think they could do that, or should do that?
What?
Why did they do what they wanted to do? That was what they thought to do.
I don't understand the question.
Why did they think that they had the right to change?
It wasn't. It was the impact of people. It was the impact which was taking place at the period. Just like the period of emancipation. Okay? What did the first reform Jews do when they arrived in America?
They took the kippah off.
And what was their world of tefillah? What was their reform? What did they used to daven in the reform shuls? Okay, doesn't make any difference, but that's what he's talking about. Eliminated. Haznacha, they forgot about it. Or they added. Hosafa, hashmata. ויש בגללם לחשש לשכחה ולקביעה ולשינוי. All different changes going on. That is what Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon. Now, why is that? Now you think to yourselves, they made up tefillot. Mm-hmm. They didn't have a books. They're not printed like Koren, Rinat Yisrael, Art Scroll, goodness knows what. So now all of a sudden Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon realizes that this world of tefillah, which is inherent in the Jewish people, is falling apart. And therefore he needs to create texts. Recreate. V'yesh biglalam, because of this, lichshash l'shikcha, people will forget it. Ulikviya, to create a canon of tefillot. Ulikviya shinui. Ki ba'atzot ha'el, in these lands, shavarti bahem, ra'iti mishloshet hadvarim halayel. I've seen these three things. People forgetting about tefillah, people adding on different tefillot, and some knocking out tefillot.
Some doing what?
Some change, some not davening, some changing, some people leaving out.
Ah, okay.
Right? No, we're not talking about korbanot. We're talking about
No, the korbanot of davening.
whatever it was. No, but you don't need. We're not talking about the korbanot. We're talking about Shemoneh Esrei, guys. We're talking about the bracha of avat avo rabo, etc., etc. Language like this, and therefore, ki ba'arzot ha'el, line number 110, שעברתי בהם ראיתי משלושת הדברים האלה, מה שהניעני וקראני להשתדל להפסיקו. I feel I need to have an impact on the Jewish people and create a tefillah. והיה זה דבר מבהיל. This scared me. It scared me that people aren't davening. Right. And therefore, what does he do? Kimu Masoret Umanutenu. The Masorah of our nation, line 110. Bitfilotea ubirchotea, yesh dvarim. There are things שהוזנח, shemusam ad shenishchaku, v'nishchaku legamri, things which have completely been rubbed out. Chutz me'etzel yichidei skula. Umehem yesh dvarim shenosaf alehem, added to them, v'nishmat mehem, ad shenishtanu, they completely changed, v'nifsudu hakavanot. And all the intentions which the Ezra Sofer had has all been forgotten. Umei yesh behem davar shenosaf alehem nishmat, etc., etc., etc. And therefore, what does he do? Line number 114. V'ra'iti le'esof b'sefer hazeh et hatfilot ve'et hatishbachot v'habrachot sheyesh lehem ikar, which are basic. What are the basic tfilot? What are the principles of tfilot? בתכונתן הקדומה, כפי שהיו צורותיהם לפני הגלות ואחריהן ולסימן לסידור. Now, so therefore what have we got now? Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon looks in his generation, looks in the period before him, and he sees the world of tefillah has fallen to pieces. Ad kedei kach. Listen, you can understand it. If you don't have books, and you don't have formalities, and everything is just by heart, you make up things. Okay? Remember, who might have a siddur? Perhaps the Shliach Tzibur. But what about the person himself?
Seems like a lot of them were able to do it.
Pardon?
It seems, like you were saying before, that they couldn't continue to go along the way the religion was being.
Nachon, correct.
Conservative Judaism.
100%.
Yeah, but because I thought, first I was a hippie, then I thought, okay, let me get into that level, and I saw it didn't work. I know it didn't work.
Okay.
The work is the
Avodat Hashem.
Yeah.
Right. So now, what does he do now? This is the framework which he lives in. Okay, and nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. Okay, we all go through these cycles, through history, etc., etc. Okay, so what does he say now? Line number 114. כמו שהקדמתי נחלקות לשני חלקים, אחד לזמן הרגיל ואחד לזמן מיוחד, וכל אחד מהם שוב לשני חלקים, תפילות היחיד ותפילות הציבור. What is תפילת of the individual? תפילה בציבור. מפני שכל התפילות הציבור בזמן המיוחד וברגיל מורכבות מתפילות היחיד בשניהם. And therefore he decides to make תפילת יחיד, תפילת ציבור. He creates for the Jewish people the world of tefillah. That is the first time a siddur has been written. His was the first siddur. Remember, nowhere in the Mishnah is there a siddur. Nowhere. You won't find it, hardly anything in Gemara. What are we supposed to daven? What is the framework of davening? What is the language which they used?
How they davened before that?
That's why he had to do it. In that way, he was the first revolutionary person who created a siddur.
Isn't that why you had a Shaliach Tibor? Because they didn't know?
Because they didn't know.
But they couldn't have somebody like this type of a great Knesset and find out, in America that it wasn't.
Yeah, but in America it's a lot easier because you still have printed siddurim. You could have brought from Poland,
We're
Russia.
talking about before they were printing.
No, what do you mean? There was no. That's what his problem was. His problem was there was no official text of a siddur, and that's what he creates.
Mr. Hick.
No.
Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon.
Okay.
Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon is the one who does it. Yes,
So I hear the Gemara talks about an outline of tefillah.
it creates the outline, but what is the language of tefillah?
That's up to you.
Oh, and he says, no, we've got to create it. Now there were languages mentioned certain places, okay, but now let me give you an example of the impact of Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon. It's quite amazing. What do we say in Tefillah? Line number 125, and we're just going to give one example of the Chidush of Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon. One of them. Okay, it's a whole world on its own, the Siddur of Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon. Some amazing articles have been written on this subject. It's a world on its own. Let's give ourselves one example. We say every single day, 3 times a day, Ritzei Hashem Elokeinu b'amcha Yisrael u'vitfilatam v'ashevet avolah levi beitecha, except appease Hashem b'amcha Yisrael u'vitfilatam v'ashevet avolah levi beitecha v'yishei Yisrael u'tfilatam ba'avat kabel b'ratzon u'til ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha. Now, the problem was the following. You have 2 languages here. You have Ritzei Hashem Elokeinu, and then Ba'avat Kabel B'Ratzon. One is, you ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to accept our tefillah, and the second phrase is also V'yishei Yisrael Tfilatam Ba'avat Kabel B'Ratzon. What's going on here? Why twice? Why is there one phrase and the second one? You could say it's an emphasis. But let's look in the Torah. Line number 130. ונוהגים בספרד שלא לומר רצי במנחה. In Spain, they never said the first pasuk, first sentence, רצי השם אלוקינו בעמך ישראל ובשפלסם והשבת על הדבר ביתך. Where did they start? אלא מתחילים וישי ישראל. They only started off the second phrase. That's where they started. What did they used to say? Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu shomea tefillah, v'yishei Yisrael u'tfilasam ba'avos kabel b'ratzon. The Torah comes from Ashkenaz, from France, Germany. He comes to Spain, gets the shock of his life. Nusach Sfard. Now, v'chein katav, Rav Shreira Gaon. Rav Shreira Gaon said the same thing. Lomar, Ritzei Hashem Elokeinu, המנהג כאשר כתב רבינו סעדיה גאון, שאין אומרים אותו במנחה, אלא במנחה של תעניות. Only on mincha of fast days. ומי שאומרו תמיד, and somebody who says, רצי השם אלוקינו בעמך ישראל ובשפלסם, ויושב יסבו לי בביסך, לא יפה הוא עושה. וביום כיפור במנחה, אף על פי שאין עושים כבהם, נהגו לומר רצי. יום כיפור they did used to say it. They did. ואיני יודע טעם למנהגם. Now, why is that? The reason is, let's look in, the reason is the following. Ritzei Hashem Elokeinu, and I'm not going to go through the whole of the Beit Yosef because I want to carry on to do the next page, is basically because they never used to do duchening, Birkas Kohanim in Mincha. Only, why? Why don't they do Birkas Kohanim in Mincha? Because people had eaten and they drunk. Now the staple drink was wine.
Are we talking about Yom Kippur or are we talking about...
Now, every day. So Ritzei Hashem Elokeinu Ba'amcha Yisrael u'vitfilatam v'ashevet avodah b'beitecha goes to the Beis HaMikdash. It goes to Birkas Kohanim. It was a sign that now, just look in the Beit Yosef, in line number 140. Ze Lashon HaManhig. Ra'iti b'Tulitula, in Toledo. V'chol svivotea, she'ein omrim retzei ki im b'mincha b'ta'anit, ולא בשעה מנחה, ויראה לי הטעם, כי בשעה שאין הכהנים נושאים כפיהם, אין לומר רצי. לפי שאמרו בפרק אלו נאמרים, כל כהן שאינו עולה בעבודה לדוכן שוב אינו רוצה, ורצה קורא לעבודה. What is רצה? What is the עבודה which we have nowadays? Birkas Kohanim. Birkas Kohanim is the only remnant which we have from what took place in the Beis HaMikdash. Nesiat Kapayim was a mitzvah in the Beis HaMikdash. And what do? We carry it on. Now in Eretz Yisrael you do it every day. Yom Tov they only do it when Musaf. But here we're talking about the Beit Yosef in Eretz Yisrael, or the Sfardim who did used to do Birkas Kohanim.
Only the Chagim.
Ashkenazim. Some of the Sfardim used to do it every day. Exactly. And what does he say? Ukshematchil, in line number 140, Ukshematchil azrazan retzeh, הם עולים לדוכן. ומנחה שבכל יום אין בו נשיאות כפיים. זולתי במנחה דתיינס. וכן כתב רבינו סעדיה גאון כמנהג ספרד. Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon was the one who actually introduced this nusach. That mincha, you don't start by Ritzei, but you say B'Ishei Yisrael. Now, therefore, the format of Tefillah completely changes. And he brings a whole lot of proofs. This is what took place. And the question is, why on Yom Kippur did they used to say Ritzei? Even though in Mincha, only in the Ila they used to do Birkas Kohanim, not in Mincha, but we're not going to go into all the details. But the impact of the Siddur of Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon. Now, even though the Siddur of Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon was written in Arabic, they had remnants of it, and they knew in Spain the Masorah, the tradition of Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon. They were, no, he wrote his commentary in Arabic, the Tefillot were Hebrew, and they had remnants of it in the writings of the Gaonim of the Siddur of the Nusach of Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon. Now, the next one who wrote a Siddur was 100 years later, the Siddur of Rav Amram Gaon. But Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon was a revolutionary in what? In creating basically the first format of Siddur.
Was that word coined by him?
Pardon?
Was that word coined by him?
What was that?
The term Siddur.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know. But it's Seder Avodah. That's what's written. Yeah. Now, let's go to the next one. The next stage of his revolution. So the first revolution was Sefer HaMitzvot. The second one is laws of documents. Third one is Siddur. Fourth one is a commentary on the Torah. Posuk by Posuk. Commentary. Like Rashi. Like Ibn Ezra. But the first one who ever wrote a word by word commentary on the Torah was Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon. And he writes two commentaries. Two commentaries he writes. The first one is a textual commentary explaining words. The next one is a philosophical explanation, in depth, what we would call. But the first one is words.
Concepts.
No, words. Then concepts. Now, same thing, he wrote it in Arabic.
With the concepts on the chapter level or the deeper?
We will give examples. Okay, we will try to give examples. Now, in order to understand the way Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon thinks, and again, he wrote it in Arabic, and we're going to give examples of how he explains words. Words of the Parsha. What's the time? Okay, let's start off his introduction. Again, it was found in the Gnizot. They had sources. Ibn Ezra had it. Rabbeinu Bachai had it. Okay, because they understood Arabic. Pardon? They understood Arabic. Ramban knew it because of, he didn't speak Arabic, the Ramban, but Rabbeinu Bechai understood Arabic. Ibn Ezra understood Arabic because he was born in southern part of Spain. And therefore they understood Arabic. But a lot of it was missing, and it was found in the Gnizot. So let's start off. It's called the Tafsir. Okay, anybody who opens up Torah Chayim of Mosad Rav Kook, the big blue ones, okay, will see that there the short commentary is written there. And he writes the following. ואחר הפתיחה נאמר, כאשר רצה החכם יתברך בספרו זה ללמד את בני אדם ולהנחותם, when הקדוש ברוך הוא ומשה רבנו wanted to teach people, וכיוון שהלימוד יהיה על 3 דרכים. When you read something, when you want to teach somebody something, you do it on 3 levels. How does HaKadosh Baruch Hu teach us? How does the Torah work? Pshat level. The first one is, הדרך הראשון, שהוא הקל שבהם, הוא שיאמר לזה שרוצים ללמדו, עשה כך ואל תעשה כך. You're a 4-year-old kid, you don't go and put a key in an electric plug. Don't touch electricity. Okay? Don't touch electricity. Don't play with gas. Don't. What? Or fire. Don't play around with matches. Okay? No reasons, don't. Or do. The do's and the don'ts. That is on the simple level, says Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon. מבלי לגלות לו תכלית הציווי והאזהרה. Not telling the guy the objective. That's the first level. The do's and the don'ts. לפי שיודע המצווה שבכך יעשה את הציווי, because this way you've got a good chance the guy will do it, ויתרחק מן המוזר עליו. So the first level is the do's and the don'ts. The next level, says Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon, והדרך השינוי השני, שאם הציווי והאזהרה יגלה לאדם המצווה מהמוזר תכלית. What is the objective? What will happen if you do? What will happen if you don't? That's the next level. What's going to happen if you keep this mitzvah? If you eat breakfast, you won't be starving the whole morning. If you don't eat breakfast, what's going to happen to you in school? You won't be able to concentrate. Think to yourselves how you brought up your kids. Okay? The do's and the don'ts. Okay, I'm not giving explanations. Everybody's got his own miser. Okay? The do's and the don'ts. And what? And what will happen if you do it? And what will happen if you don't do it? הדרך השני, שאם הציווי והאזהרה יגלה לאדם המצווה והמוזר תכלית המעשה. ויאמר לו, עשה כך, if you do this, יגמולך. כך, ואל תעשה כך, פן תענש בכך. והדרך הזה חשוב מן הראשון. This becomes more important. Why? כי משאדם הזה יתאר לעצמו הטובה או הרעה. Because here a person can imagine to himself the results of what's going to happen if you do and what's going to happen if you don't. Second level. The third level is not the results. It says the following. והדרך השלישי, שאם הודעת המצווה והמוזהר, גמולו הטוב, על המשמעת יספר לו מה שאירע לבני אדם. You go back to history. What happened to this guy who didn't eat breakfast? Who put a key into an electric plug? Turned on the gas, played matches. Right? So therefore, there are 3 levels. One is the do's and the don'ts. What will happen if you do? And what happened to people who did it? Learning from history.
Assuming the reaction is going to come and
what does he say? Okay? והדרך השלישית הוא שאם הודעת המצווה והמוסר גמולו הטוב יספר לו מה שאירע לבני אדם, line number 15 and 16 אשר שמעו. והדרך הזה חשוב. This one, the third one is the most important one. כי הניסיון והמעשה, the experience and the action נחקקים בלב hashomea. They are deep down in the heart of the person. Okay, learning from experience. Learn from your parents, learn from grandparents, etc., etc. Okay? And that is why you have the whole of Sefer Bereshis. Sefer Bereshis, guys, says Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon, is the teaching of where it all begins. The experience. Avraham Avinu davens. Avraham Avinu does chesed. Okay? Stories. Stories have the impact, says Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon, far more than anything else. Once you have the story, what happened, the experience, then you can learn from it. והדרך הזה חשוב משני הראשונים, כי הניסיון והמעשה נחקים בלב השומע, ויהיה אצלו כאילו ראה, ולזה ראה החכם יתברך, לתת לנו ספרו, אשר ראה בו הכשרת האנושות. How do you prepare humanity to go forward? How do you do it? He says, וכלל בו יתברך שלושת הדרכים האלה. It is not a book of do's and don'ts. It's also a book of do's and don'ts. What's going to happen if you do, and what's going to happen if you don't. And it's also got the story of what happened if you did do it or didn't do it. That's the way Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon perceives Torah shebichtav. Experience, commandments, reward and punishment. Again, Bereshis is experience. The rest of the Torah is either do's and the don'ts and the benefits. Now, lefichach, therefore, tziva et avadav la'asot hatzedek. Line number 21. He commanded his servants to do the tzedek. V'zira min haresha. V'ivticham al hatov. Gave them promises. V'ivticham. And he made them scared. Tochacha. V'odiam. And he notified them. Mashira lekodmehem. Anashim she'asu hatov ba'aretz itzlichu. Somebody who did good succeeded. Noach saves the world. And Abraham does chesed. V'achirim shishchitu darkam avdu. Those who went rotten lost everything. Kedei shelo yachsar shum derech midarkei halimud shelo nichnav. Kodesh Baruch Hu gives us the Torah shebichtav in a way that you have these three dimensions: experience, commandment, reward and punishment. And he gives us an example. V'dugma shloshet drachim eile b'Torah. And the example of these three things, k'gon ma she'amar Hashem yitaleh v'yitromam v'al yavo b'chol etel hakodesh. You can't go in to the Kodesh Kodashim wherever you go. Why? Because if you do, v'gila lo tachlit hadavar. Why? Because if you do go when you feel like going into the Kodesh Kodashim, what's going to happen to you? You're going to die. And who is the example of those who died? Nadav and Avihu. Nadav and Avihu, the children of Aaron. Al yavo b'chol etel hakodesh achrei mot shnei bnei Aaron.
They went to the Kodesh.
They went in a place where they shouldn't go. It doesn't make any difference.
In a time they shouldn't go.
In a time when they shouldn't go, and the place where they shouldn't go. And they did what they shouldn't do. But he's particular to mention it that before, what does he say? If you look in the beginning of Parshat Acharei Mot, it's written there the following. He says, Acharei Mot Shnei Bnei Aaron V'korvatam El Hashem Vayamutu. Then what? He says to Aaron the following. After you've seen what's happened to you, don't go like your children did, but do exactly as I tell you. And if you do exactly as I tell you, you won't find yourself 4 meters underneath.
Just tell everybody what you just said again.
What do you
In
mean?
that case, Hashem told
Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu
Directly from Hashem.
directly from
But
HaKadosh.
which of the people are able to absorb it and utilize
The whole of the Torah, when he gives them the Torah on Har Sinai, and Moshe Rabbeinu for 40 years, he imbues them in all these things. 40 years, they sit in the desert, and all they do is learn. But he doesn't help. Because the minute you get into Sefer Shoftim, it all falls to
That's what I'm
pieces.
trying to understand. What you just said, it doesn't help. That's
Why doesn't it help?
Here you tell me.
Why doesn't it help?
Yeah.
Because you don't have any books to learn from.
Oh, okay.
You have a Sefer Torah. How many Sefer Torah are there? And how many people sit and explain it? And how many people can sit themselves by and learn? They've got to learn everything by heart. Right. And the whole concept of an abstract God fighting the influence of Woodstock. Okay? Fighting the influence of the baseball teams, fighting the influence of cell phones, fighting that everything. Okay, I'm giving you an example, okay? Sorry, 1 minute. Okay, so that's what it is. That's why the Torah is so hard for Am Yisrael, and that's why it falls to pieces. And your whole time you go up and down, and the whole of Sefer Shoftim is the ups and downs of all these scenarios. Let's carry on. V'lo chibarti sefer zeh. Why have I written this short perush? אלא לבקשת אחד התלמידים, אשר ביקש ממני לייחד לפשטי התורה ספר מיוחד. I need to understand the pshat, the words. I don't understand language. The language is hard for me, one of his talmidim said. I don't understand. Okay? ולא אבין, line number 29, I'm not going to deal with שאלות הכופרים, ולא תשובתי עליהם. But I'm going to explain to you what the Torah means in its language. That's the first book. And after that, he says he's going to write another book. Now, just give ourselves examples. Let's learn line number 40. And we're going to give examples from this week's Parsha. This week's Parsha, guys. We could have done last week's. That is a preparation for this week's Shabbos. It's good to know. Very good to know. Vayar Hashem. Okay, this takes place. Now I'm just giving you random ideas. Random. Vayar Hashem kisar lirot. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees that Moshe Rabbeinu is scared to go towards the sneh. Vayikra Elokim mitoch hasneh. Vayomer Moshe Moshe Vayomer hineni. Vayomer, and he says, Al tikrav halom. Shalna ala alecha רגליך כי המקום אשר אתה עומד עליו אדמת קודש הוא. ויאמר אנוכי אלוקי אביך ואלוקי יצחק ואלוקי יעקב ויסתר משה כי ירא מהביט אל השם. Now, what are the problems first of all? The first problem which Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon wants to point out to us is personification. Vayar. What does it mean? HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees. Got eyes. What has he got? So therefore, because of this, Rabbeinu Saadya changes the word. And the word is, Vayar means Vayeda. Knowledge. Now, there's a huge difference between knowledge and sight. Okay? Absorb. Kodesh Baruch Hu, inverted commas, has the ability, let's give ourselves an example, the best example that you've got nowadays is you're driving on using Waze, and the Waze tells you where to go. Are you going to say Waze sees you? No, I'm asking you, does Waze see you? Does Google Maps see you? Yes or no?
Yeah, a little speck on the
What?
a little speck on the screen.
That's sight! That is sight, guys! Sight is when you use eyes. What do you mean? So therefore you've got to translate in the world of Re'iyah, Heinayim ro'ot. And all of a sudden, no, it doesn't mean eyes seeing, because seeing is always equated to eyes. And therefore Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon says, don't translate it in the way which we usually use the words in personification. First concept. Waze knows where you're going, but he doesn't see you. Next.
This is in his first book or his second book?
First book.
But this is a concept.
It's a translation. He's only translating. He's not explaining why. He doesn't want to explain why. He wants to translate. Don't be mistaken.
Translating is literal, so it's not literal if he's saying it's knowledge and not...
Correct.
So it's a concept.
It's a conceptual idea, but it's a translation where he's not going to prove why. He's not proving it.
Any translation is always going to be...
Correct. I agree with you. Next word. Okay? Next word. Vayomer. Al tikrav halom. Now all these are questions which Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon felt in the language of the sentence. In the language of the sentence. Vayomer, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Al tikra halom. Shal na me'arecha ki hamakom asher ata omed alav admat kodeshu. Now what does it mean? Holy land. What do you mean? Somebody made it holy. So Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon says, it has become holy. Mekudash. It has become holy. It's become, Hashem made it. It's not something which you created, but it's something which has become holy. Mekudash. Now, next line. Vayomer Hashem. Vayomer Anochi Elokei Avicha. Ve'elokei Yitzchak. Ve'elokei Yaakov. Vayaster Moshe Panav. What does it mean? He hid his face. What? He went behind the snare. He went behind trees. What did he do?
Who went?
Moshe Rabbeinu.
Moshe Rabbeinu hid his face?
That's what it's written. Vayaster Moshe Panav. He hid his face. What do you mean you hide your face? How do you hide your face? Oh, so what does he do? What does he translate? Line number 50. Vayaster Kisa. Covered his face. Now, all these are explanations of words. Covered his face.
But that's also physical.
Pardon? Moshe Rabbeinu's physical. Moshe Rabbeinu's physical. So therefore, what does he do? He's got his coat, so to speak, and he covers his face. Ki yareh. Me'abit el Hashem. Ki yareh. Ki nityar'ah. He became scared. Now, ki yareh me'abit el ha'elokim. He's scared of looking at HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What do you mean? What does it mean? He's scared of looking at HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore, Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon adds a word into it. El Zohar HaElokim. All of a sudden, he sees this strong, strong light facing him. It doesn't mean to say he saw HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There was some Zohar, there was some manifestation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now this is 3 psukim where Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon looks at the words, only words, and he realizes that some of the words, and I'm just giving few examples. Now Rashi doesn't deal with this, Ibn Ezra does. Let's give ourselves the next one. Okay, when you listen to Kriyas HaTorah on Shabbos, take note. Vayomer Elokim el Moshe, Eheye asher eheye. I will be what I will be. Chinese. Yeah? So, Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon, and here, this isn't a literal translation, it's a conceptual explanation. And he says, Hakadmon Hakayam, the original God who is in existence now, Mechuyav Hamtziut, who exists now, Asher Ein Sof Limtziuto, eternal. The first God, I was, and I will always be. eternal. Moshe HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Mechadesh to Moshe Rabbeinu. A concept. And what is this concept? It's the first time HaKadosh Baruch Hu reveals his identity, who he is. He's never said it before.
He identified himself to Moshe.
To Moshe Rabbeinu.
That he didn't do to the Avot.
No, this is before that. It's before the Ekel Shaddai. This is not a description of how HaKadosh Baruch Hu works. He's describing his existence. Now, every single one of us doesn't know what's going to happen in 5 minutes' time.
5 seconds.
Okay, you say 5, so I'm giving you another 5 minutes. Okay? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I am telling you, I will always be there. I'm eternal. I was, and I will be. Oh, sorry about that one. Let me just, it's my watch, it's not my phone. I forgot to turn it off. Okay, let's give ourselves an example. Every single day, we say it. Okay? Kadmon l'chol davar asher nivra. Rishon ve'en reshit l'reshito. Or v'achrei hu haya hu hoveh hu yeh v'tifara. All these explanations, manifestations, says Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon, of this, what he means, ehiyeh asher ehiyeh. Let's go last ones. Vayomer elav Hashem. Last explanation. Vayomer Hashem elav. Mi sam pe la'adam. Who has put a mouth to a human being? O mi asum ilem o cheresh o pikech o iver halo anochi Hashem elokecha. V'ata lech v'anochi yeh im picha v'oreticha asher tzedaber. Now, let's do mi sam pe. Says Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon, line number 65. Mi bara dibur. We are not talking about what? The organ. We're talking about the power of speech. Because what does Moshe Rabbeinu say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? I can't do it, I can't speak. So what does he mean? Mi sampeh. You've also got a mouth. No. Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon explains it that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling him, Moshe Rabbeinu, I gave you the power of speech. It's not mi sampeh, who has created or given you the organ of the mouth, but what is it? The organ of speech. Mi sampeh, mi bara dibur, or mi yasum ilem, or mi bara et she'ino medaber. Who created somebody who unfortunately can't speak? Or cheresh, she'ino shomer. Halo, what's the word halo? Ha'im lo, me. And then, va'ata lech, va'anochi eye im picha. Well, I'm going to be with your mouth. Says the Rasab, no. Im picha im diburcha, with your power of speech. So now, what does Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon do in these few sentences? He explains the words of the Torah which seem to be not clear. The language doesn't flow. And therefore, because the language doesn't flow, there is a need to, so to speak, update the explanation of these words. Peh does not mean the organ. It means power of speech. Because the opposite of it is miyasum ilem. What do you mean? The ilem, the person who unfortunately is dumb, has also got lips. Mute, yeah. Somebody's dumb.
Similar word in English, don't you? You have tongue for a language.
Okay, but again,
It's the
same
concept.
Same concept.
Is it of interest to see what Uncle has did with any of this?
Oh, you want me to teach Unculus? Okay.
I don't want you to teach Uncle, but I'm just saying, overall,
It's an amazing comparison. Now, remember, 3 translations could have been in front of Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon. The first one was the Targum Hashivim, the Septuagint, which was done in Egypt 700 years, even more, about 1,000 years before Onkelos, before Rabbeinu Saadya. You then had two translations of the Torah into Aramaic, Yonatan ben Uziel, or the Targum Yerushalmi, and Onkelos. And then you had another Greek translation, was written by somebody called Aquilas. 4 translations. Now, did he use them? I don't know whether Rabbeinu Saadya understood Greek. He definitely understood Aramaic. And obviously, when you learn Onkelos, okay, then there are influences. The only trouble was that they spoke Arabic, and therefore there was a need to translate Arabic. Now, let's give ourselves one more example. And this, guys, is perhaps one of the most brilliant explanations. Vatered, line number 74. Vatered bat paro lirchotz ala yaor. Okay, I've taken everything from this week's parsha. Vatered bat paro lirchotz ala yaor, v'narotea olchot aleh yaor. Okay, she's walking along the river, and then she sees vatera et ateva, בסוף, בתוך הסוף, ותשלח את אמתה ותיקחיה. And she sends forward amata, and she took him. Now, what is the translation of the word amata?
Something with a scale.
What does it mean? Say Chazal, בפרק כמה. Now, we're taking it from the Minchat Shai. The Minchat Shai was somebody called Rabbi Shayahu Di Norzi from Italy, who is the expert on the Masorah. How you punctuate words in the Torah, the 1600s. Okay, you look in the old big Mikra Gdolot, you will see at the end in small letters, Minchat Shai. Okay, I have a tradition from my father and also from my father-in-law that every Baal Korah has to know Minchat Shai by heart. And here's an example why. Says the Minchat Shai, בפרק כמה דסוטה, פליגי רבי יהודה ורבי נחמיה. חד אמר ידה, a hand. The amma is from here to here. When you say 30 amot komato, what does amot mean? Distance between your hand and your elbow. That is an amma, approximately 30 centimeters. Okay? That's an amma. But there's another
People
translation.
might have more than that.
Okay, we're not going into all those little details. Correct.
Otherwise,
I agree with you, but we're not going into shiur.
Okay.
Right. The other explanation is shifchata. Ama ha'ivriya. Pashas Mishpotim. Hebrew maidservant. Now what does she do here? Does she stretch out a hand? Or does she send one of her maidservants?
Who is not Hebrew.
What?
Who is not Hebrew.
What do you say?
Who is not Hebrew.
Who's not Hebrew? Correct.
It's not Avriyanism.
No, but he means a maidservant. V'achiita b'shmot rabba. Uleman darish lashon yad. Okay? And if you explain the word yad, says the Minchat Shai, צריך להיות האלף בפתח והמם דגושה. There's got to be a dagesh in the mem. Because the word amma, of size, that's the way you write it. Kegirsat Rabbeinu Saadya. According to the version of Rabbeinu Saadya. V'chein nir'eh מהתרגום. ולמען דדריש לשון שפחה, האלף בחטא פתח, והמם רפויה. כמו שהוא בספרים שלנו. Please look in the version in front of you. ותשלח את אמתה, how's it written? Chataf Patach, and no dagesh in the mem. Now, for us Ashkenazim, it doesn't make much of a difference. But for a Sephardi Baal Koire, he will say Amata or Amata. Right? Because there's a dagesh in the mem, you have to emphasize it. And that, he says, V'chein katav Rashi, Rabbi Abraham Eben Ezra, V'chizkuri. So here we have a huge machloket between Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon and Rashi, how to interpret the word amata. Does it mean a hand, or does it mean a maidservant? Now, let's say you have a Baal Koire who reads and he says amata. Somebody will shout out at him and say to him, that's not the correct way of reading it. Why? Because we don't have a dogesh in the mem. What will he answer you? Yeah, but I go according to the Targum and Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon. Next week we will carry on with the Perush of Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon on the Torah. But this is one way of looking. So his first revolution, third revolution was Siddur. Fourth revolution is Perush on the Torah. Yes.
Isn't the Siddur of the Rav Amram Gaon first?
No, Rav Saadya. No, Rav Saadya Gaon came first. No. Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon was 100 years before. It might have been printed before.
Here it says that the Rav Amram Gaon was
No, Rabbeinu Saadya Gaon came before. 100%. Yeah. 100%. No way. That's why, if you look in the tool,
I actually shared it a couple of times.
no, it's a mistake. It's a mistake. 100%.
Look at that. Just running.
No.